Hello and welcome. This is your GM in the Great Barrier, broadcasting from the center of your entertainment galaxy, and we are back with Star Trek Adventures Aegis, our 22nd century game, so set during the prequel era of Enterprise. And we are coming back with part two of our truly spooky episode here. Um, Before we get going, I just thought it would be. I wanted to take note that over on the Bardic Inspiration Network, we've got our own Dr. John Lambeth, Ben, who is now GMing a Power Rangers themed game. Ben, did you want to include a little blurb about that here?
Yeah, might as well. On Fridays, the same time as this stream, but a day ago, I'm running Power Rangers Solar City, which is a Power Rangers crossed with Stargate Atlantis, kind of an ancient city of alien origin, um, that's got some weird Power Rangers stuff going on, and a group of people trying to explore it. Um, yeah, we had the first session last week. That went well, and we all had a lot of fun.
Uh, well, by all means, check them out. That should, of course, still be archived on their Twitch channel. Is it going over to? Do they do any sort of podcasting or YouTube archive as well? Do you know?
I think there's a plan to put it on YouTube later on, but at the moment it's just on Twitch.
Okay. Well, then, yeah. For those that might be interested, go ahead and give them a look here. I'll drop their link in the chat.
Thank you.
Likewise, the well, yeah, give them a chat. For those watching this in the archive, there will be a link with a special mention in the description here. For all those who are watching us live and want to catch up on any archived material for this campaign or for the Broken Sword adventure, we have that link in the or we have that link in the chat as well. Obviously, if you're watching in the archive, you don't need to worry about that because you're already here. Uh, and then, of course, um, for all others that are just wanting to keep abreast of any information, both updates about this game, Broken Sword, or other other items that our other players might want to promote or anything of the sort, you can take a quick look over at my Twitter. That's I can be found at GM underscore barrier, or for those in the chat, I'm dropping that link there. So by all means, give it a look. That'll help you keep up with the schedule. But with all of that said, it's time to get back to where we were, um, or rejoin our current game. So when last we left off, the Aegis, after some accident with the warp system, found itself in essentially what appeared to be an abyss, or a location without any signs of conventional matter or energy uh, as it could be recognized. They had when everyone had sort of come to and started getting reserve power back online, it seemed as though main power had basically dropped off. Warp and impulse engines were both down, leaving you only on very small, minimally effective maneuvering thrusters. You know, internal sensors were intermittent. There were even a couple hull breaches reported. And so the ship was left pretty much on its running off of its reserves, barely illuminated, and with scarcely enough power to do much more than keep the ship and its occupants alive while you began effecting repairs, and maybe getting a bit of a start back towards, well, whatever might be an exit. Um, so far as that goes, you did manage to at least figure out that there was a detectable warp trail that you'd left behind. Apparently, the Aegis had been at warp for about 13 seconds in this unusual realm before the warp field had collapsed and everything else had happened. As Lieutenant Commander Romanov, the ship's chief engineer, discovered, it seemed that whenever you entered this place, it seemed that that initial entry caused some sort of power overload, which managed to cause much of the damage you folks are dealing with right now. So, the ship proceeded under minimal power back towards what appears to be the initial site of this accident, albeit at thrusters right now a mere 500 kph, or kilometers per hour. You are slated to get to that site in about 7 years, absent either repairs to the engines or something else a little more risky. You are going to be traveling for quite some time, and that is particularly bad, not just because of the supply situation or power reserves, but because you found out that you are not so alone as you thought you were. Uh, there have been a few members of the crew that have been brought into sickbay who have turned out to be dead or otherwise severely injured by contact with something just completely unrecognizable. What you discovered was the existence of some sort of entity, not one you can entirely perceive, and maybe that can't perceive you. It's a bit of a mystery, but it just manifests as some sort of swirling, amorphous black cloud of sorts. Uh, and whether by intention, by instinct, by designs that are yet incomprehensible to you, it will move through the ship, sometimes passing through bulkheads, other times rending them to pieces. And with every person it comes in contact with, it simply, or it can move through them but cause terrible damage. This was sadly the case with Ensign Conley, who died after direct contact with this. It was the case with one of the bulkheads when one that was found on board made contact with or tried to leave the ship, going through the front of the bridge and tearing it out. The only survivors on that end were Colonel Sharp and Ensign Crichton, who managed to make it to the turbolift just in time. Unfortunately, this came at the loss of two Makos and the ship's chief science officer and executive officer, Lieutenant Commander Patel. And so that is where we rejoin this very frightful adventure, starting just a few minutes earlier, back down in sickbay. Uh, the area has crowded around, and let's see, there are people that are in shot right now that shouldn't be, so let's get those two out. Let's see here. And I don't think Soral's there either, so I'll just place them in the jam barrier for now. Or
Neither is Justice.
Neither is Justice. That's quite correct. Okay, so
Justice is everywhere we need him.
Yep. So
You cannot escape justice.
yes, Chief Justice is always ever present, and is gonna make sure that you get what's coming to you. I'm sure that's something that Drone would say in that case. It's truly a marvelous character. Anyway, mere minutes earlier, Dr. Lambeth, you were in the process at this point likely of, performing whatever other scans or diagnostics you could on the late Ensign Connolly. Unfortunately, he is beyond your ability to rescue at this point. So I imagine we probably come on with some of the medical staff draping the covers over him and possibly readying to get him into a body bag, pending storage or otherwise a shipboard funeral. As to the rest of you, the rest of your medical staff has been tending to dozens of smaller other wounds. and trying to at least keep Sergeant Hawkins alive, although he's been largely unresponsive to treatment past the point where you're able to like just resuscitate him. He's not showing any neurological activity. The other remaining patient, of course, is the one bright spot perhaps here, Lieutenant Yulashira, who, after taking a very nasty tumble into her tactical console shortly after the accident, is thankfully in the just about on the mend. Her antennae are in the process of like they are starting to rather they've been healing throughout most of these past several hours, and it seems as though, possibly a little shaky, but she might be back up on her feet. So yeah, let's cut. Yeah, this is where we would come in here. So, I guess Shira, first off, you've been on the bed for a little while. Is there anything in particular you'd be tending to when you have a relaxed moment?
Just trying to keep abreast of the situation on the ship when I'm locked in here as a patient.
I gotcha. Yeah. There's probably been an armory officer by once every so often to deliver reports. Security teams are beginning to. They've been staying in teams of 2 since the captain gave orders and to do so, and have been keeping an eye on anything throughout the ship. The last encounter, I believe, was on deck 6 when the colonel had. Um, the Colonel, Chief Justice, and Mr. Sorrel had cornered something. One of the creatures that, or entities that had killed Ensign Connolly while being in contact with him. But yeah, you know also that the Chief Science Officer has proposed a method involving some sort of particle emitter that would uh, allow the ship to possibly detect signs of whatever these entities are. But yeah, otherwise it was a quiet few minutes here. So, Doctor, is there anything you'd be doing in particular?
I guess if they've just working on an autopsy of Conley, seeing what information he can get from that and any of the other victims, see if it can help him with the next one.
Certainly. Yeah, I will go ahead and give you, just based off the time that you've been conducting the scans, that there are continued signs of some sort of extreme neural trauma, such that the uh, you know it would be exceptionally difficult for an individual to come back after that, or at least to do so with any like sustained brain activity afterwards. And even if they could manage that, uh, the time to rehabilitate might be extensive. It just so thoroughly scrambles the individual's neurons that it is like this is a most devastating blow. It is also there are other effects that you haven't fully teased out because there are unusual changes that seem to occur to the individual's living tissue when it comes in where it comes in contact with the entity. For Conley, it was much more extensive damage, and you're only just now probably beginning to get a sense of what all that does.
Okay, so do I have an idea of what that kind of stuff is? Like, is it like, I guess, is it the same on all of them, or does it kind of vary?
I would say it's pretty consistent, but it is kind of a wide range of unusual changes. It's very much, in a sense, almost as if In some ways, you might liken it to if the living tissue were exposed to essentially microwave radiation. Like it
Okay.
is kind of cooked from the inside in some ways, but there are other unusual chemical changes that seem to occur. It's a myriad set of instances which, while consistent, are just they all lack terribly good explanation because there's not a lot of commonality stringing between them, besides the fact that they've had this encounter.
Yeah, okay. Is there any way that I can... I guess if it's showing similar signs to... But the contact areas show similar signs to microwave radiation, but what's killing them isn't microwave radiation. Right?
No.
It's... Okay, so...
Yeah. It's basically that's what the effect
Even if I can
appears.
treat the microwave radiation symptoms, that won't necessarily help with anything else.
No, that's it would be akin to I don't know. I suppose it would be akin to trying to give somebody like medicine for a headache when they've sustained a severe some sort of severe trauma to the head that actually like leaves a large flesh wound of sorts, and the something out of the horror films with brains and skull fragments everywhere, just
Yeah.
awful stuff here. This is well beyond the skills of Dr. John Lambeth, or indeed any medical technician that you know of, to at the very least certainly to prevent, but really to care for in any meaningful or appreciable way. Yeah, the medical science isn't quite here yet. But as you are going over your respective reports, there's an audio signal. Intruder alert! Security teams to the bridge! Comes over the intercom.
Right,
Doc,
do we
am I
need...
good to go?
Is she?
I mean, she's,
Probably.
from what you understand, the treatment is mostly working. You would probably be more comfortable with bed rest in most situations, but and Shira hasn't tested exactly how well she's going to do on her feet, so that will, in theory, yes. In practice, plenty of physicians wouldn't recommend it.
If you can walk out the door without falling over, you're free to go. Otherwise, you need to stay here. And try
Yeah.
not to get into any fights.
No promises.
Or conflicts with bulkhead doors.
Oh,
do have to.
definitely, I'll avoid those.
Okay. Shira, start us off with the first roll of the session and give
I
me
walk out of sick bay.
a fitness and security roll. I'm going to I'm going to set the difficulty at 2 just because this has been your first time getting up since you sustained the injury, and you're trying to find that sense of equilibrium.
I unfortunately don't have a focus in walking. So in this case, I will, since it's a security roll, I will give you a threat and get an extra dice.
I will graciously accept the threat. All right, and with since you are invoking bold security, first off, you have scored the requisite 2 successes. There is 1 0 there, which you may elect to re-roll, if you so wish.
Nah, that's fine. That's fine. I managed to walk out the door without hitting anything.
Yep. You slide off the chair. It's the first few steps are a little more tentative, as the you orient yourself in the direction of the ship's artificial gravity, and Maybe the room spins very slightly for a moment, but with each step firmly planted, you manage to make your way out of sickbay. Doctor Shira eventually moves forward with a confidence that you would expect you would usually expect to see from her usual day-to-day conduct. So she makes each stride very deliberate and just firmly plants her feet on the deck to escape your sick bay.
All right. Just confirm. You need security teams. Do you need medical assistance? He says over the comms.
Uh, well, I suppose it couldn't hurt, although nobody is injured at this point. Wait a minute. People coming in the turbo lift. Sorry, the colonel's here. Over the comms, you probably hear at this point Colonel Sharp call out for everyone to back away from their consoles. And at that point, Creighton closes out the line. So,
All right.
you may
Well,
send them at your discretion, of course, Doctor.
Yeah, I think if they're not needed, he'll keep them working on figuring out what's going on and taking care of the injured at the moment.
Okay. So, Shira, you make your way to the turbo lift. It takes you just a few minutes, whilst making sure that you are, uh, you know, knowing yourself well enough. You know that you can at least make your way to the turbo lift without too much issue, but you should do so on a very deliberate basis. And as you begin to approach the actual, you move down the corridor and make your way to the central turbo lift that would take you up to the bridge. You feel a very slight jostling in the deck plates.
That's strange considering we're in a void of absolute nothing.
Indeed, so. And that slightest tremor in the deck plates unfortunately belies an incident that you've arrived all too late for. But to those survivors, we cut to them at that moment where Colonel, you had only just managed to close off the the turbo lift doors when before the bridge completely vented into space, taking with them the two Makos who desperately tried to save both Ensign Crichton and uh, Lieutenant Commander Patel. They at least succeeded with the ensign, who is just he is half standing, mostly still leaning against the other end of the turbo lift from when he was given a bit of a shove. You managed to
Yeah.
make it in without too much issue, however.
She would have pulled Crichton around her and against, making sure that Crichton was definitely secure between her and the door. But afterwards, she would have, as soon as the doors closed and whatnot, she just slowly kind of slides herself to the floor, sitting down, kind of staring for a moment, reining in her emotions a little bit by the shock of it all.
They took the bridge. They, 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 the, the commander. They,
Crichton. She closes her eyes. I need you to hold it together. We're still not out of this. I know what happened, and it's very tragic, but we can mourn about it after we're out of here. All right? She looks up, and slowly reaches up to grab firmly to the handles of the turbo lift.
Yes, sir. I Yes. Yes, Colonel.
It's all right to feel fear, but we can't let it control us. We can use it to empower us and work harder. Yeah? Right?
Creighton starts to nod. Colonel, go ahead and give me a presence and command check.
Yep.
I will call this difficulty 1, just to help soothe Crichton and serve as a bit of inspiration here.
Presence and command. I have inspiration as a focus.
That will apply.
And let's get it started.
Okay, that will
Only
meet
one.
the. Well,
God damn it.
it won't get you any
Well,
momentum.
I do have cautious. I have cautious commands. I get reroll 1 die.
Well, that only applies if you purchase a dice with momentum.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well then, yeah, only 1.
Yep. I'm sorry to say. But Crichton does take a few moments to just breathe as you slowly talk him through this. The turbolift goes down several decks, and when it opens, Lieutenant Shira, you find the two of them in there, having requested it to come down so that you could join the security teams on the bridge.
She just stands there and just looking very focused on the wall before looking over at Shira. Like Shira sees us now.
Yep.
Colonel, are you okay?
I will be once we're out of here. Shira, I'm now appointing you as acting commander in XO.
Oh. Yes, sir.
Is the communicator working on this level?
Good enough to hear your request for security and medical. Well, the ensigns.
Very determined, she stomps her way, or commandedly strides her way to the communicator. Captain to Romanov.
Over in the engineering section, or rather, the intercom plays across the ship, with the wall panel nearest you, Romanov, blinking. You are still, I think, back over on the impulse deck, so it's still affecting repairs to the fusion reactors.
Oh, yeah. What's up, Captain?
For the moment, I need you to give up on the fusion reactor and get yourself in the cargo bay.
Okay. There is that shuttle.
I have some plans. Get down there right now.
Okay.
Sorrel. Actually, she's back. Romanov. We still have leftover neutrinos within the antimatter reactor, right? We haven't dispelled any of the.
Do we still have that? I assume so.
I imagine that there's, given how the reactor shielding is constructed, anything that was generated in the warp reactor there might be still a few errant particles contained in there.
She looks over Shira. I have a very disturbing idea. Romanov,
This whole day's been pretty disturbing, sir.
Romanov, I need you to shunt any leftover neutrinos into out of the ship.
Okay.
And then get yourself into the cargo bay.
Okay. Shunt the neutrinos.
She cues into Sorrel's shuttle. Sorrel.
Yes, Captain.
For the moment, you're going to be acting chief science officer. I need you to give up on the device you have and work. Get to. For the moment, can use your shuttles to use the scanners and look for any neutrino particles outside the ship and see if they are acting oddly.
The scanners. Yes, sir. You just like some rumbling and scraping.
Myself, Shira, and Romanov are on our way to the cargo bay. And then I click it off and just head over to the cargo bay.
Yeah.
Guess I'll follow.
Did I need to make a roll to shunt those neutrinos?
I will have you make something for that. We'll say that you start moving over to engineering, and let's see. As you're doing this, the one of your assistant engineering officers and quartermaster will say, Chief Vernier walks alongside you and says, I can keep repairs going, but I guess if we're going to shunt those neutrinos, we'll have to, well, what are you thinking? Emit them, try to shunt it somehow through the warp nacelles, maybe try to give a burst through the deflector if we can juice that just for a moment to get it going?
Is this guy the expert on those two systems?
Not necessarily, but he's enough of an engineering generalist, or he's senior enough to where those are both reasonable propositions. Granted, the nacelles would be more difficult because the warp system is kind of cold and dead right now.
Shunt it through the deflector. That's my call. But I'm bouncing that off you for safety questions. What do you think?
It'll cost a little bit of our power reserves, but that's really anything's gonna call for that at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there we go. Okay, let it be done then.
All right.
You want me to do that?
Well, I can stay on repairs if you like, or I can join you for this, or it's your prerogative, Commander.
Assist me with this, then head back to repairs. Okay?
Aye, sir. And with that, Fernier will book it alongside you to get back to the engineering room. The one as you get there, it's definitely it's a pretty frenetic scene as people are trying to also conduct at least some repairs on the warp core and otherwise monitor or like otherwise try to monitor damaged systems. There are some displays that have generated a bit of alarm, suggesting a hull breach on deck 1 and the bridge section. Okay. At least one engineer looks away. It's like, Commander, I'm seeing a display here. There's a breach on the bridge section. It's venting to space.
I'm pretty sure the captain's aware of that. Right now, I need you on those repairs. Okay? Stay focused. Okay? Lots of stuff is going to go off all over the place. But we have to stay on our game. Okay?
The engineers look concerned, but they all nod. Yes, Commander. And they all set to work here. So Fernier will join you at an appropriate console. All right.
Let's do this.
Ready to shunt power here. This will be a control and engineering roll with a difficulty of 2. And you can be assisted by the ship's, let's call this, I will allow for structure and engineering.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to roll for the ship, and because you are having to juice the deflector, essentially, I will allow, I think that you have something with either the EPS grid or perhaps a weapons engineering focus. This is a slightly tactically oriented move or system. Either would apply.
So it's going to be engines and what?
Structure and engineering.
Cool. All right. And we have rugged design, advanced suite. But I'm just...
I don't think either talent applies for for the ship there. But yeah, there's the assist,
There's
so you
one.
get 1 success from the ship. So with Romanov, that will score the 2nd success that's necessary for the roll. So you just managed to juice what a bit of the reserve power, which will cost 1 point of power from the reserves. Um, and you shunt what remains of the of sort of exotic particle generation in the warp reactor, particularly the neutrinos, and it sends it out in a wave ahead of the ship.
I will say,
And
out of character.
we're on our we're on our route to that point, right?
Yes.
We're already in that direction. Good. That
Um,
may not help us, but who knows? It might.
out of character, I had a brain fart. I didn't mean the cargo bay. I meant the shuttle bay.
No, I knew where you meant.
Yeah.
Okay. Well then.
So she'll turn the keys over to whoever her number 2 is. You know, you just keep them on task. Okay. Yep. Answer distress calls, but let's try to keep the repairs going on the secondary reactor.
Yep. So engineering teams will keep at work then. Your engineer's mate sets to tasks as you've designated them, and I guess with the retconned appropriate orders, Commander Romanov, you go out to join the remainder of the command crew down in the shuttle bay.
And on the way, we'll stop by the armory.
Okay.
And I'll tell Shira, grab that. She gestures to the case that is definitely the nuke, where the nuke is.
Okay. Picking up one acquainted weapon system. Okay.
You get you are given a cart that will allow you to wheel it around, and
Good.
Crichton's like, Colonel, should I be here, or do you want me with you in the shuttle bay, or are we going to set up a new command post?
For the moment, we're going to set up a new command post in the engineering, given the fact that everything on the ship eventually leads to there. I need you to establish a new communication station and see if you can try make another attempt at creating communications with these aliens.
Very well, sir. And Crichton is going.
Before he leaves, she'll say, "Crichton."
Yes, sir.
And rest a hand on the shoulder. We'll get through this. Deep breaths.
Aye, Colonel. He will breathe deeply, and I will try not to breathe so deeply. As anyone that was around for the Q&A stream for Broken Sword this past week knows, I really went a little too hard on that, and I apologize for that. But anyway, yeah. So a few minutes later, the 4 of you, sans Crichton here, are in the shuttle bay, rendezvousing with Mr. Sorrel, who is in his mess of a Vulcan shuttlecraft.
Yeah, I guess there's also like these big cables like leading into it where they started to work on the reactor.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's trying to use shuttle sensors.
Okay, let's see. I am going to give you, let's call this...
Thank God the shuttle has sensors, and probably more superior sensors, honestly.
I mean, the Aegis has a pretty decent sensor suite.
Yeah, but I have to recreate a station for it. Just gonna take time. I don't have time for that shit.
Okay, so let's see. First and foremost, I guess, Mr. Sorrel, give me just a reason and science roll. I will call this, since you're operating from inside the ship, I think that, well, you're focusing on something very, very minute, but also given how little else there is out here, I'm willing just to simplify things and say that the shuttle operates in part through the Aegis. So I will allow you allow that the shuttle can operate in part with the sensor suite. So that will let them roll for it.
Sure. So what difficulty am I looking at?
I will call the difficulty 1.
Okay, fair enough. I assume sensor operations apply.
Yes.
Bum, bum, bum.
Okay. And I will go ahead and drop the roll for the ship. Oh dear. Well, you did succeed at the task. There were no complications, but there is a spooky absence of momentum here.
We do have advanced sensor suites. Do we sort of roll with that? What does it do?
Generally, that just reduces the difficulty of the task, but I believe it
Okay.
only goes down to 1.
Damn it.
So
God damn it. What is going on, dice? Come on. All right.
Not friendly.
the dice giveth and the dice taketh away. So, Saral, you do after the deflector has conducted its neutrino burst, you scan around for the immediate area in the vicinity of the ship. Just kind of, I would say, transitioning from what would effectively be a close to medium distance, you detect signs that an errant neutrino particle is moving on a particular course. It actually seems to be moving on the same vector as you, but much faster.
I mean, I would also assume like neutrinos are generally pretty quick on their feet.
Yes.
So
Well,
anything that isn't quite standard neutrino speed, I
Yes,
assume
I'll-
is odd.
yes. I'll say that it's moving. Where I think that, if I remember correctly, neutrinos move generally at near light speed.
Yeah.
This is moving much more at sublight, but would be more the equivalent of maybe 1/3 to 1/2 impulse power. So considerably slower.
Holding its course with us, or
It is maintaining these. It is on the exact same course as you are. However, it is moving. It is moving away from you.
okay? How far away is it from us?
I'd say, it is probably going from the thousands of kilometers, moving maybe just now into the tens of thousands of kilometers. I don't recall exactly what constitutes close to medium range, or rather, relative to the. It's all relative to the range of the ship's weapons, in a sense, when it comes to space-based zones. So close range is what your phase cannons can easily shoot, and that.
But that's the only one that show up on the scanner.
That is the only neutrino that has currently been stopped. There are others that are still moving at near light speed. They'll probably be. You'll probably be able to get a better read on them in a few seconds as telemetry continues to pop in, but that's only if you care to continue following that. As you do, however, that's basically the snapshot that you have when the remaining command crew pop in.
Well, I just don't even turn around. Just well, we got only one signal, and it's moving ahead of us.
Below light speed. Yes, Cyril?
Yeah, about maybe a third, half impulse.
Her frown just turns to a grimace. That's what I thought. All right. Well, that explains why we can't see anything in the sensors. because these creatures are surrounding us. We're inside it, or some sort of colony of it.
Well, I'm not detecting any more than that one.
Just the one?
That's what the sensors show me, the difficulty of one.
And even more curious. All right. So, how fast can your shuttle move, warp speed wise?
Odd. How fast can a Vulcan, mostly civilian shuttle moves like? Like, I have no idea.
Dude, at a conservative estimate, I think that you could at least approach some of the same levels as many of the faster Starfleet ships.
So that's warp 4?
Warp 4.55.
I will go ahead and give you it's a Warp 5 shuttle.
I can hold warp 5 for quite a while.
She just nods, looks over to Romanov. How damaged is the deflector right now?
I just worked on it. How is it?
Well, the basics are that I mean, the deflector is mostly offline. It's offline more so because of it's generally fed power from the mains, and the mains are currently out.
So no power means no deflector. Okay, but the deflector is more or less fine.
We just vented neutrinos through it as per your request.
She nods.
And the ship has 1, 2, 3. It has 4 actual emanating dishes on the front of it, so it's fairly durable.
At the moment, we are in a pseudo-hostile environment, and we need to get from here to around 13 million miles toward that portal. And that's if we can pass through it.
We need to figure out in what kind of spatiality we are, and then figure out how to drive ourselves forward in that spatiality. We're not dealing with physics as we know it out there. These entities, they're entirely something different.
I agree.
And
given my recent experiences with them.
There's a series of questions we need to understand about out there, and I'm sure you're on them.
Currently, my objective is to get this crew and this ship out of this space safely. As while interesting as they may be, and certainly would be approachable for further studies, it is at the moment a risk to the ship as a whole.
Oh yeah, we're in a total survival situation.
So I have 2 suggestions, and I'm wanting all of you, including you, Lieutenant Shira, for whether or not it would be sustainable. The first option, less drastic, less of a gamble, though still much of one, is that we set up a subspace field around the ship long enough and use the burnout, most likely, the shuttle's warp engines to give us even just a 10-second jump. A warp skip, if you don't mind. Even reaching to warp 3 would in the space of 3 seconds would likely get us close the distance enough, and even once we lose the subspace field, could probably let us drift far enough and have fast enough speed to reach the end goal. How likely is it? She looks over.
How likely is that?
Well, so just to be clear, you are wondering if Saral's shuttle can extend a warp field out around the Aegis and take you to warp.
or using the power from the shuttle itself to use our own deflector dish to create a warp field use the shuttle's warp engine, small as it is, to at least give us either 10 seconds at warp 2 or 3 seconds at warp 3 to close the distance.
Huh. Well, the two of you begin talking about it. Saral, on the other hand, knowing your shuttle as much as you do, you at least know that you at least know what I sent to you there in the Roll20.
Look, she knows it's fucking crazy.
Mhm.
It's a gamble.
What would it be possible for Saral's shuttle to tow us? Because tow scenarios have been seen in.
Not at warp. Nowhere near at warp.
No, ships have to tow other ships through warp.
Yeah, but that's it's a sized issue, and even then, I don't know if towing. Can you tow something
Well,
through warp?
I know. I'm throwing
Yeah.
everything that's possible on the table.
Yeah.
You know.
You could do a warp tow in like TNG stuff, whether that's still applicable
But
when you
that's
can't do
that's a
Enterprise
lot more.
era.
Yeah.
That's the question. That's the question I'm throwing out there.
You'd have to
Or-
somehow extend the warp field from the shuttle around the entire.
Well, we
Aegis.
have lots of recently created strong power conduits. And Saral likes to hot rod.
I mean, it's still 200 years worth of
No. What I'm
reactor development compared to
Well,
now.
correct.
I mean,
I
you just
was
do the
you know.
Kelvin divergent thing and just invent the equation that doesn't technically exist yet. Just make it
so-
happen.
So Saral, you got message from the GM. What's going on?
Zoral is kind of leaning back in his chair with the feet up on the console, and it's just like staring up at the ceiling. And if you could look inside his head, there would just be like numbers and formulas, just like beautiful minding. And it's just like, there is, Captain, as much as I like to experiment, there is no feasible way I can see to stretch the warp bubble of a shuttle to encompass the entire ship.
Even for a micro of a second.
There's just in his mind the image of what happens if the warp bubble collapses at the wrong points in the whole process, and it's just like
Every beautiful mind equation leads to explosion.
Yes, I mean that's one creative way to get us all out of here and out of existence permanently.
Could we take the warp core out of the shuttle and jury rig it to work with our own systems?
That would take a lot more time.
I mean, the idea of a warp core you take out, like almost like, what is it, like an ejectable warp core, sounds ridiculous, to be honest.
Okay, there is one thing I'll throw on the table. We might be able to use his shuttle's engine to maybe jumpstart ours once that secondary reactor is. On old combustion cars, you could jumpstart in one car with another car.
What happened to the reactor of the Aegis? Why is it? What
We
caused it to kind of?
because of damage it received when we came in.
Yeah, very specifically, when the Aegis entered this realm, whatever sort of effect occurred when space kind of crackled around you, created a series of overloads that damaged both not just the Aegis's warp reactor, but the warp nacelles themselves.
Yeah, the warp nacelles are practically gone.
They are.
Which is why we're going to use. Why she had the thought of using the shuttles, even if it's just like a skip.
Can we? Is it possible to like hybridize like the shuttle and the Aegis?
That's what I was suggesting, is that we link the systems together and use your shuttle and
Like-
even our others the battery energy to jumpstart the engine once it's put back together.
I mean, I think that the engine, even jump-starting the engine isn't the problem. The problem is we have neither a functioning warp core nor functioning nacelles. And if the nacelles are basically, of the Aegis are basically
Yeah.
foobar,
There's nothing to
Then-
generate the warp field.
All right.
yeah, but then
No.
I mean,
No, we have proven we have a deflector dish. And what if we projected the field forward and tried to create a slide? I mean, this is some other kind of space. I mean, this would be Soral's turf. But in terms of engineering, the one thing that's working well is our main deflector dish.
It just doesn't have the power to it.
We're diminishing power, the rate of decay. So
are the warp nacelles like just damaged, or are they like torn off? Or like, what's the status?
No, they're not torn off. But if I remember, they are so fused that it was we don't know. Like right now, we don't even know if we could do anything about them unless we go in there and check it out ourselves. But that took time to cool. The cells need to be cooled down first.
I mean, can we just like use the shuttle to inspect the warp nacelles?
Even the captain will say, I don't want any vessels out there at the current moment because we don't know what exactly could defend against any of those life forms.
Yeah.
what's
And
the
it's
internal sensors say about the nacelles in detail? Is there any of them? Like, could we use the forward section and get just say warp 1 for just a very small period of time?
yeah. Some of the readouts like suggest that some of the essentially what you're getting off of is that some of the warp coils have been fused. It might be possible to use something that's left there in order to affect that process. And there is actually there is a catwalk system that would allow you to get more directly into the nacelles in order to go and physically inspect them.
We have
Let me
replacement warp coils. Is that a thing we carry?
That is not a common thing, unfortunately, for starships.
That has to be done at a dry dock, Soral.
All right. Then there's a second option, far more risk, though, a fair bit more primitive and successful. She looks over to Lieutenant Shira.
Who has been
At
carting
what
around
range-
a case that you haven't seen before, Soral. I'll say that much.
At what range can our hull plating withstand at the closest? A fission explosion, or fusion explosion, for that matter.
Well, a nuclear bomb is quite old technology, and this ship is, frankly, a couple centuries more modern than that. It should stand up reasonably well to it. I wouldn't want to be in any section which is exposed to the vacuum. So perhaps it would be a good idea if we were to use this weapon in... I'm not entirely clear what manner we'd be using it, but if we'd use the weapon, we'd evacuate everyone from outer sections of the ship.
My second idea is to use that device at high yield as close as possible without utterly destroying the ship, and using its wake to push us in a more forward momentum than we're currently at. Since there is no debris, space dust, or other things there's literally nothing here, the momentum should be consistent and significantly faster.
I mean, you want to ride the shockwave.
She nods.
But out there is nothing. And a shockwave needs something to perpetuate itself
There's no
in.
medium for it to transfer, as we understand it.
The kinetic force of the kinetic force of the nuclear explosion should be enough current.
Current implies
Is that just crazy or crazy enough to work?
Well,
What does my Vulcan mind think?
I guess if we want to take one more try at generating momentum, I will award it
Yes,
to
sure.
I mean, like,
a reason.
so I'm going to do this. I am going to do this. I am actually using my determination because I have gave both ideas in my head, and use my ability called Spirit of Discovery as I give you very Kirk-like ideas to get the fuck out of here. And so I'll use my value of Kirk was made famous for it, but I laid the groundwork to give 3 momentum to the group.
So that will definitely apply here. Who would like to be designated momentum officer?
I'll do it.
All right.
And really quickly, because a veteran.
Hey, you get your
Holy fuck, I
determination
got it
back.
back.
Fantastic.
There, look, your luck's starting to turn.
Yeah.
At any rate, so just to check, basically option 1 is try to use the shuttle to create give the Aegis a micro warp propulsion for a moment, or use the
micro propulsion. Basically, I want to recreate our problem using the shuttle, except in the direction we need to go. Whether that is, and I'm hoping we can get warp 3 because that is 29 times the speed of light. And
it is 1 warp factor faster than you used to get here.
Yeah, but at the very least, I would accept the same warp, which is warp 2, and if we can hold that even for like 5 to 10 seconds, that would kill the amount of problem we had before. That'll close a lot of distance.
Okay, so I guess Saral, Romanov, you may attempt this too. If you want to try to fill up on more momentum, we will call this Reason and Engineering. I will set this to a difficulty of... I was going to give it as a difficulty 1. I will stick with that. But I will only award momentum to one of you, based on the highest roll.
What role is that?
Reason and Engineering.
Would investigation or troubleshooting work as a focus?
You know, I will be generous and say that those might work for you. Maybe more so troubleshooting here.
Trouble exploding. Yeah, I mean, Zoral will mull it over.
Okay. Zoral with 3 successes there. You do earn back 2 momentum, or you do earn 2 more momentum. And the basics are that in terms of option 1, it is there are possible ways to make it work. It would probably be a long and time-consuming process, only because, while you know that trying to use your shuttle to just sustain a warp field and be able to move the entire Aegis for even a moment is most assuredly not possible. From maintaining, you don't think that the shuttle could maintain a warp field of that large size. You would only be taking part of the Aegis with you.
I mean,
actually, I have been thinking, if the problem's the size of the warp core, just to remove the sphere and the nacelles,
I
We
mean,
don't need the bridge anymore. We don't
Are
need
we-
the nacelles. Just take
Ah.
the tube.
are we about to
Guys,
invent
guys,
saucer separation
we're
right
still
here?
in a
Yes.
even outside of it, we'd still be in the fucking nebula in very empty space with no planets near us.
We'd have comms.
We'll be fine.
There might be other ways to make some combination of that work with Lieutenant Commander Romanov's proposal. However, that means making sure that enough of the warp coils are in some functioning state. If the shuttle is to become the Aegis's beating heart in lieu of its own warp reactor, that would also mean a lot of jury rigging in order to make sure that the EPS connections, that there are stable ones between the ship and the and your shuttle. Things that it was certainly not designed to do, or it's not. Basically, there isn't an easy way to shunt the power from the matter and antimatter reaction to the warp nacelles in the quantity that you would need to create a warp field of this size. Probably not without, in the best case scenario, burning out the shuttle's power supply. As to option 2, detonating nuclear devices of any sort is probably not ideal. However, what the kernel is saying is theoretically simple, or rather, it's theoretically sound. There is, even in vacuum, the prospect for, under the right conditions, kinetic force of nuclear detonations to actually propel a ship. With the technology you have on hand, it could actually be more manageable, but with some caveats. The kinetic force would mean it would need to be detonated within quite a close distance of the aft of the ship, which would probably do some damage. You might be able to either mitigate some of that or even detonate from slightly further away by use of essentially, if you had power to a deflector field of some sort, you might be able to shape that if it were directed to the aft of the ship and use it to ride the wave. That would be the best way to do that, if it were possible, would be to use an energy shield grid, as is common on Vulcan and Andorian ships of the day.
So use our deflector dish to generate sort of like with nuclear proposals for for propelling ships. It was detonating a nuke, and then there was sort of a large shield underneath it to take the blow and propel it forward. Right? Is that what you're describing?
Basically.
Yeah, except using the ship as the sail.
Right. And the deflector dish would assist with that.
That, in principle, that would be the most likely way for it to work.
Okay.
However,
Now,
there
also-
are issues in terms of the Aegis. Its navigational deflector is only meant to generate forward, or a forward deflector field. It can slightly envelop the ship when it is emitted, but the concentration.
Oh no, we're going to have to face our nose to the explosion. We're going to have to get fired backwards. Is the only way that works.
Absent another ship that would have to, while still inside the Aegis, have a deflector field that would, or rather, be able to shape a deflector field.
Can the
Could
shuttle do that?
The shuttle could indeed do that with the with the shuttle bay doors open.
Because there's one other thing I want to show to Saral. As I vented those neutrinos, there was a wave in front of the ship. You described it. I'm going to bring up the sensor data for that.
Basically, you showcase the deflector pulse.
Yes. Yeah. and I'm just going to show it to Saral. He's really good on these advanced science theories.
While she's doing that, I look to Shira and I say, I don't need to know the details, Shira, for the sake of your own propriety, or your empire's propriety. But is there any way you can increase the yield of that device?
I can give it a go. We've got photonic torpedoes here, so...
No, you do not.
Oh, we don't. I thought we
Yes.
did.
No,
You
the group
should.
elected not to take photonic torpedoes at the start.
Nope. Yep.
Damn it.
You
Well,
do have
Yep.
antimatter that you could use to spike the nuclear weapon.
Ah. Ooh.
Oh,
Nice.
yes.
Don't we also still have some chemocide? Technically, theoretically.
I didn't know whether... actually, yeah, that's true that you hadn't
We've got a
expended
number
that.
of substances on board, so which could potentially upgrade the yield of this weapon if that's the
Great.
thing we choose to go with.
Shira, I want you to confer with these two scary individuals into creating the right amount yield and propulsion that we can through this detonation, since we only have
Yeah.
one.
First off, the neutrino wave, though, does that... Kind of my question would be, does that tell me anything that I didn't know before about the space we are in?
I will tell you what. I will ask you for one insight and science roll, and I'm going to call this. I'm going to call it difficulty 3, but I will allow Romanov to assist. In this case, with a reason and engineering, basically to showcase the work that she has already put in. And
And
this,
now that you're a science officer, you actually get one free bonus momentum when obtaining information.
Ooh. Would sensor operations work as a focus?
I will allow for it.
Fantastic. And then I will use bold science to give you a threat and buy a die.
Spectacular.
Because what this game needs is more threat.
Precisely.
Bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-bum. That is fantastic. Can I roll one or all?
You may roll. You may re-roll as many dice in the pool as you wish.
Then I
Romanov?
would like to re-roll the 2 zeros.
Yep, because that is only one success
Oh,
right now.
God.
Now 2 successes. Romanov, you can roll
all
to
on you.
assist with reason and
How-
engineering.
How good is your PowerPoint?
I am not
My
hearing.
Oh, go ahead if you want to.
Okay. Let's see. So reason and engineering, right?
Mm-hmm. And you set it up. You set up the PowerPoint. Let's go computers for this. So you get a focus.
Okay.
Single die, though, of course, as an assist.
Reason, engineering, and computer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
With a single D20 to assist.
And a single D. So I'm rolling 3D20.
No, 1 D20.
1D20.
Yes,
Okay.
you are assisting Mr. Saral. Well, it does give you a sense of a little bit of this. The way that the particles seem to be moving through this space, it doesn't seem entirely dissimilar, at least, to how this moves through like space as you know it, Saral. The It's tough to say because with the existence of there are things here that there are a lot of known unknowns, if you will, or other elements that you just don't understand. At this point, I would say that the space that this would give you a sense of an with accounting for the fact that there does seem to be some sort of rupture that possibly the Aegis caused, or that you just discovered by happenstance when you went to warp, there may be some relationship between your space and this one, but that the nature of it is more. It would almost be, let's say, I guess the closest sort of metaphor for it would be to say that maybe there is some variant of subspace that you have intersected with, or some sort of plane that exists very close to yours, but obviously isn't quite there. It doesn't mesh nearly as well. And that's at least a theoretical start for what you are looking at. To truly understand this realm would not only probably take decades, it would take it would probably go past your lifespan and probably require advances in science that you just haven't fully comprehended yet, or that you aren't in a position to make from here. But it'll make for a hell of a paper one day.
One day. This is actually interesting. You're right. I'm not exactly sure what we are looking at, but this does indicate that whatever space we're in is not so much empty as just, what's a good word? Unknowable to us. Just like these creatures.
She nods. But at the moment, above our pay grade and our
It
priorities.
is, but there is one question we could answer. Is there a set of particles we could project ahead of us using the deflector array that would allow us to move faster in this medium? That's the only thing I'm throwing at Sorol if it's reasonable to figure out. Then we're being propelled from the back, and all I'm suggesting is we throw a little grease ahead of us, right?
Oh, like cutting the waves. Yeah, I see what you mean.
When we were kids on Alpha Centauri, we had these slick things and we'd slide down them. Well, we'd grease them so we'd go faster, right?
Even before the supposed deflector pulls, how long do you need just to set up the nuclear sail idea?
How long for the nuclear sail?
Well,
Supposed nuclear sail.
that's limited basically to the speed that Shira and everyone can. Yes, speed of plot. A set of time that it would take to A, orient the shuttle in the correct direction, and B, the time it would take for everyone to perform surgery on a torpedo.
I mean, also I assume it requires some precise calculations.
Yes.
So I would very much hate to just be blown up in nothingness here.
Yep. All right, detonate the torpedo. It's still in the engineering bay.
I said what I said.
I'm going to start breaking up tasks based on engineers that could do certain things so that the PCs can concentrate on the big picture stuff.
I also need an engineer of proper clearance.
I got somebody for you. I'm going to go for that gentleman who I was talking to earlier.
Okay.
He's very good.
All right, I'm taking him to Crichton to load up a probe with the black box.
Yep. So, as all of this continues, Sorol, you begin working on the torpedo when it occurs to you that there's a not unreasonable chance you will come out of this with a less than healthy glow.
I was about to say, I have weapons engineering as a focus, so I might want to help him with that.
Certainly.
And the first thing I make sure is that neither of us come out of it with a glow. We've got safety equipment for that. So, rad.
If you make mention of it, I will summon the doctor down there for you guys.
Yes, absolutely. I let you know. This is going to be a little bit of a dangerous one, possible radiation. Have support available.
All right, she goes to communications. Command to Dr. Lambeth.
Lambeth here.
Doctor, we need you down in the shuttle bay. We're going to be dealing with exotic particles and perhaps need a bit of potassium in our blood.
All right, on my way. I'll bring the potassium.
Or whatever else for anti-radiation.
You got it.
So, yeah, Doctor, you bring a portion of the ship's anti-radiation medicine stores, wondering what the rest of the crew has gotten themselves into whilst you are while you've just been trying to keep everybody alive here. Let's move on ahead, or allow for a bit of a time lapse. I guess.
How's Crichton working with the communications?
Oh.
Before I get to him, or rather, as I get to him.
Yeah. So in the engine room where Crichton is attempting to set up a command post with at least a couple engineers helping, he's trying to avoid getting under too many of it, like not stepping on too many people's toes, because engineering is of course a very busy location.
Right.
But there's probably some signs of frustration. A lot of it just coming from the general stressful nature of the situation. Crichton, however, has begun rigging up a communications relay station in one of the corners that's been where they've been able to move some of the engineers aside. He'll inform you that he has reasonable control of internal and external comms from this site.
I would like you and the engineer here to work on a probe with the black box in case things, if the unfortunate does happen. I want at least a record to show Starfleet of what happened to us. And the second afterwards, I need you to focus on any communications at all that you can establish with these life forms.
I will continue work on that. I can say the records pod does have the records pod in the forward section should be able to launch. I think I can establish a connection there. Of course, if you want, I can set up a if you want, I could move that to more of a hair trigger status, or perhaps distribute that command, or even set it for an auto launch in case of certain severe damage, say loss of connection with my station here.
She thinks for a moment.
In worst case scenario, we just have to retrieve it later.
Let's say to a hair trigger. Once the force of the plan that I'm devising happens, I want it to launch automatically ahead of us.
Okay. I don't suppose it. Is this plan going to involve blowing us up, Captain?
Anything we can to get us out of here. She kind of smiles and pats him. You're a betting man, right? She smiles, gives a grin.
I'm really not.
You should join one of my poker games sometimes.
I didn't know you played poker.
There's a lot of things you don't know. Crichton, she smiles.
He looks not at all reassured as he begins to program the.
She'll say, "We'll get out of here. I have faith in you and the rest of this crew that even the boldest plan will help us even further reach our goal, which is safety. And certainly, here, this current moment is not safe for us. Trust me, we'll get out of this."
Okay. So, just real quick, Crichton is going to set it to a hair trigger mode, in the event that once your plan is engaged, if there is some failure with signaling or anything of the sort, any loss to communications from there, that the pod will set for automatic launch.
Yep.
Okay. And that'll be enough. So, yeah. Elsewhere on the ship, let's go ahead and bring in Dr. Lambeth, who you convene with the other members of the command staff in the shuttle bay, very specifically in Soral's mess of a Vulcan shuttle, which I don't think you'd been aboard prior to this. So, remind us, Soral, what would you say is like the general state of the craft when?
Organized ADHD chaos. And by organized, I mean there's a subsystem, probably, potentially, maybe, but you're struggling
You
to
would
find it.
Yeah, but you see a Vulcan, a human, and an Andorian poring over what appears to be a nuclear device.
Oh,
Okay,
I see why you wanted the anti-radiation meds.
Yeah.
It would be helpful, Doc.
What exactly is the plan here? Like, how much exposure are you planning on?
As little as possible. But we might have to open this device up, insert a few things to make the boom bigger, and then close it back up again. And then haul it, drop it out the back of the ship, and watch it go bang. Well, don't watch it go bang. We don't want to watch it go bang.
Okay, so you just need the anti-radiation meds for opening this thing up.
Yeah, be good.
Yeah, okay, alright. I can get you... Yeah, he'll pull out some drugs and hand them over. And
Ooh,
right, here's the
drugs.
recommended dosage.
Recommended dosage on the basis of what? Fiddling with nuclear devices?
I mean, not for that, but roughly for that level of radiation. Well, I mean, we've got multiple kinds. I mean, you've got, because there's ways to limit the impact both before and afterwards, after exposure, and obviously they take different effects. But for the kind of level of radiation you might be expecting, this will do something to lessen the impact.
Good.
But you might still not be in tippity-top shape.
Well, I suppose I'm not in tippy-top shape right now, so might as well have it.
Yep, I'm just giving you my warning. Anyway, that's what you'll need.
Thanks for that.
So you begin to distribute the as the doctor. I imagine it's over the shoulder hypo spray injection.
Oh yes, yeah, makes sense.
Yep. The three of you continue performing some interesting custom work on your nuclear device.
I would like to go shipwide, but I can't make a speech worth a damn. But at least not at the moment. But I basically want to.
I was just going to say I will give you that opportunity in a few moments, just while
Okay.
these three continue their work, or at least get let's call it a starting roll to assess the sort of optimal design for what you would need to do. And I'm going to throw some higher difficulty rolls at you here just to affect what you, in order to affect what you need to do in order to get this souped up nuke to the status that it needs to be in order to create the desired effects. Let's say we're going to call this we're going to go through what the Star Trek Adventures engine refers to as a gated task, where you complete a set of tasks in sequence in order to affect the proper outcomes. So I think that the first starting task would be something that would involve calculations around the precise yields you need, mathematical models for what the nukes with any chemosite or antimatter spiking that you would want to use. Basically, something that would help you discern that.
Well, I've got lovely focus and explosives.
I have weapons engineering.
I have troubleshooting.
That is a lot of trouble.
I think that for this first step, either the weapons engineering or the explosives would both be pertinent focuses. So this will probably be, I think, to start with, more reason based for an attribute, and then if you prefer, let's call this more. I suppose engineering or security would honestly be appropriate in this context.
I'll use engineering because that'll give me reason engineering plus a focus.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so I have that set up. How much momentum do we have?
You have 5 points of momentum. I will say that this initial step is going to be, I'm going to call this one a difficulty of 3.
I'll do the assist with reason and security.
Mm-hmm. And your explosives focus will be granted here as well.
Do you want me to spend a momentum, guys?
Go for it.
Yeah,
we've got
we
5.
have 5.
Go for it.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and roll then. There we go. My roll 20 is back up.
Spectacular, and that is 3 successes on your own, and Shira scores a 4th success there, which exceeds the initial task and gives you a point of momentum back.
Yay!
So yeah, the initial calculations it certainly consumes a little bit of time running those initial calculations. However, it quickly becomes evident that there is a range in which you can adjust the weapon to give you a much more significant bit of propulsion, something closer to honestly, you could probably just about hit the near full impulse level, which would allow you to clear the remaining distance within the next within maybe 20 minutes time, as opposed to the 7-year trip that you have.
Yes, okay, that's very reasonable, and
That's a good improvement. Yeah.
Yep, you would definitely want the deflector in operation during that time. Otherwise, however, it will vaporize you, or at least consume and probably melt a good bit of the aft section. Maybe in the most optimistic scenarios, maybe it doesn't completely melt the engine room and breach containment for the remaining shipboard antimatter, but that is
all non-essential personnel in the aft section. All non-essential personnel in the aft section.
Yeah, everyone in the aft section, and make sure those deflectors are getting all the power possible.
You mean the fore section, not the aft. The bow of the ship. But
if we've rotated the ship so that the deflector's facing towards the explosion, then the aft is pointed away.
No, we're using the shuttles.
While we're working on this, and I guess there's I get a good grasp of the actual energies released of this particular device and the plan it's taking shape. Can I even make the shuttle project a deflector field that's strong enough to withstand that?
So yes, you can actually do that if you route most of your shuttle's power to the deflector. You could create a field that would shape around the aft of the ship, and it would simultaneously disperse enough of the blast to prevent it from damaging the aft of the ship. However, it would also allow the well, it would both disperse the blast, but it would also catch enough of the kinetic energy release, enough of the energy release from that to give the shuttle or rather give the ship an additional thrust. The deflector would kind of allow the shuttle to disperse it and integrate that wave to where the Aegis picks up a good bit of the propulsive impact. Probably gets jostled a little bit, but it's enough to.
We're going to need seatbelts, aren't we?
Well, the dampeners might be able to take it. The big thing is there's a not unreasonable chance, Saral, that you're going to want a double dose of the radiation medicine because the shuttle will need to. The field is not going to be generated through the shuttle bay doors.
Honestly, I would go full eBay suit.
That would probably be a good idea. That'll screen out most of the hard stuff between that and your own shuttle's hull plating.
Yeah. Because, I mean, ideally, I guess how this is going down, that I would be in the aft section hangar bay with the shuttle, working on the deflector.
Precisely.
While everyone else is not in the aft section, working on the deflector.
Yep.
Look, I'll EVA and join you there to back you up in an engineering sense.
No.
I feel fair.
Yep.
If you're not needed elsewhere.
We'll see. This is a liquid situation, right?
But yes, in any case, definitely Saral's chemosite would allow you to get to the point that you would need to with that, and then probably if you wanted to include a limited amount of the ship's antimatter supply, you could jury rig something that would allow the all three potent elements to work in synthesis to create quite a considerable weapon.
We're going from ship cracker to moon cracker.
Just about.
I mean, it kind of worries me that I'm bringing up that point, but while whatever these intelligences, let's assume it is one, did here might be subject to they don't even realize we are actually here, the same way we are not exactly sure they are here in a certain way. But I feel like detonating a chemosite enhanced nuclear device is about as aggressive as possible. Should that be of any concern?
When the captain comes back, just like
that'll. I guess for the immediate time, it depends on what what your ship's engineer, doctor, and armory officer all think in light of things. Yeah.
I mean, would it hurt something which is like neutrino based?
It's not even a neutrino based.
I have
whatever it is.
Absolutely no idea how this space functions. This could be like completely bypass them, or it could significantly
they
impact them.
bypass literally everything else in this ship.
Yeah, but they also interact with it sometimes. I don't know what will happen. But it was a thought that occurred, and you know.
It's a good thought, but
I mean, I don't see another option I could present here, but you know.
I mean, to call these things alive, it might also be stretching the definition of life as we know it.
Well, I'm still not sure if I can classify them as sentient. Because I know I rolled several times for is their movement sentient or random, and it was always like inconclusive. Might be, might not be.
Everybody's bleeding from the nose. Rolls? Rolls.
Oh, I'm sorry. I seem to have come down with a bad case of meta-speak.
Yeah, that does happen around here.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's a way to find, if there's a way to like stop them going into an area or using some kind of particle which they disliked, but I don't think we've got any time to really experiment and find out.
Time does seem to be in short supply.
Well,
How much time does that all take, by the way? Are we just talking about like hours or days? Because I think we remember we had like power for several days at least.
yeah, this is going to be work that with the three of you working on this together, I think that it would probably run into the hours as you complete the initial development and start manufacturing parts from the weapons. This is also presuming that A, the device is somewhat jury-rigged, but B, it also presumes that let's see, this presumes that you have the other teams kind of working on something, rather working on some parts to help support you here. So we're probably like stretching into the end of this day as you are finally ready to begin like assembly. And if you like, you can work through the night such that, there's any semblance of day and night on a starship, but out in this realm of complete darkness. So, would you, if you would care to take that next role, I will give you the chance to do so.
Can
would
I
that be a
try to
good
help
next
by
role?
giving a motivational speech through shipwide and try to get the crew focused on getting the fuck out of here?
Sure enough, let's see if we can generate some momentum. So before you get to that next bit, we'll say maybe as you are discussing the moral implications of life, or like whether this would potentially harm what quote unquote life might be in this zone, or indeed any of the moral implications behind use of such a terrible weapon.
While it is in my mind, before I forget it again,
Yes.
did at any point come up the probe that we caught? Because I don't think Soral knows about that.
No, that never happened here.
Mm-hmm.
You've never encountered you haven't encountered a probe. So
Is that for Soral's benefit, or if we did access an actual retcon?
No.
we'll see. Anyway,
Don't worry about it.
yeah, don't worry about it.
I will nerf pinch all of you.
Sharp's yeah. So over the audio line, as you're pondering these moral implications, Colonel Sharp's voice comes over the intercom.
This is Colonel Sharp to all crew of the SS Aegis. I understand everyone is frightened, and the darkness of this new void is making us fearful of the unknown. And while certainly we have been through some hard times in the last day, I can't but help feel that with the finest crew that Starfleet has here on this ship, that we can get out of here. It will require a very daring plan, one that is a bit primitive and has a risk of its own, but we have come here searching amongst the stars, knowing that such risk would happen. And I know for a fact that as your captain, I have every confidence that we will get out of here. All department heads have their own standing orders, and any non-essential crew members should move themselves to the fore section of the ship. I want to ensure that everyone, whether they are struggling or not, to make sure that each and every one of their crewmates reach safety. And certainly I'll see you on the other side. That's the best I got out of the freaking out of the air. Let's see. Presidents and command. I have inspiration, and I will use
Tapping. Are you going for a
I'll
point
use
of determination?
determination. I'll use determination to because I'm looking at my values. Living through one life, I realize what I've missed. And And I will spend 1 momentum to increase the die by 1, if that's fine with everybody.
Go right ahead.
Do it. And let's go. Oh, come on. Fine. I'm going to use cautious command. I'm spending 1 more die.
Well, you've already spent 1 point of momentum, so you don't have to spend anything else to re-roll on
Okay.
that.
All
Yeah.
right.
So that's already 2
There we
with
go.
the. Yep, that's already 2 with that. So,
yeah. So that's gonna be
after
5.
after initially only rolling 1 success, the re-roll with cautious command gave you 3 successes in total. Plus, I presume you are using your determination there to.
For a crit.
Yes, for the auto critical success. So you have a total of 5 successes, which will.
No. Okay.
Okay, you do not get your determination back. However, you are now filled on momentum, and after the 1 that you had to spend, I believe that would give you 3 points of momentum that are floating just for this task here. So, yeah. I imagine that as this happens, we get a shot in the shuttle of the senior officers kind of looking up as Colonel Sharp's voice plays over the intercom, rotating around the room to look at their reactions. We look across other parts of the ship, from the armory to the corridors where Makos are currently on patrol, on down to the engine room where busy crewmen have stopped in place for a moment, where Crichton, monitoring the comm system and trying to find a solution, takes a moment just to sit and mull over everything that has happened and the cost of the risks that have come to this point. While obviously for our players, your reactions to the speech are to each your own, the rest of the crew probably takes it as a bit of fortification necessary to steel themselves for what might be a difficult day to come ahead. So, as to the rest of you, would there be anything that you'd be doing doing or saying in the moments afterwards?
I would come back down to the shuttle bay.
Gotcha. In the few moments that you have with amongst yourselves, would any of you be doing anything else, or would you just get ready to start on the next task?
Well, the captain knows how to put on a good speech.
They're real tight.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Can you give me
I
the
can't believe I
basic
made
variant?
such a shocking speech, you guys. Like, I am flattered that you guys are stunned to silence.
No, it was really good. And I've had mic issues, so I'm just trying to keep.
Yeah,
No worries, no
it's the
worries.
mic issues. Yeah.
Everyone is nodding in approval, and so can you hand me the basic wave changer, please?
Yeah, Soral's all business. Speaking on that, I think that we're at a stage where we get into the very delicate process of jury rigging this weapon into something that will be functional. It will, of course, take an increment of time to be readied, but that might mean you are working through the night here, so the Colonel will come in as you are in some part of that process. I will say now ahead of time.
As I make my way down, I'm going to be grabbing a few engineers to make sure they shore up the aft section of structure to make sure that we freaking take the blast. It's going to be a doozy.
Do we already have like the structural integrity field at this point, or is that future tech?
I believe that is future technology at this point, or at least it's something that other navies employ, but Starfleet vessels do not have. Deflectors and hull plating is all they've got, and gumption.
Fucking humans, I tell you. I tell you, Shira humans.
Do the best with what they got.
Status of the jury rigging.
It's not exploded yet, so that's a good sign. And
Always
we're
good.
just
Smiles.
adding in the items which are going to make it go. Give it a more enhanced explosion.
Sorrel, how complicated is the given how highly advanced Vulcan technology can be and more user-friendly Vulcan technology can be, how complicated would the functions be on your shuttle? How customized did you make your controls?
Come again?
How customized the controls did you make your shuttle?
Yes. To whatever I need. For what?
Right.
I mean, more details to answer this question probably have to.
Can it be handled by somebody besides you?
Simple tasks, yes. I suppose. Why?
I'm to understand that there's even in our best. I can do the math quite easily. That even in our best success with this, that whoever's piloting that shuttle is going to be in risk of radiation poisoning, right?
Yes, but I was planning on wearing an EVA suit. The doctor has prepared some calculations, and the calculations show that everything should be within acceptable limits of risks.
Zach, I have both a daring and science of. I have a daring and science of 13. Even with the EVA, like it's still gonna be nasty, right?
I mean, between that and the fact he's going to be inside a ship, that does provide some shielding. So it's with that and the meds, it's probably not you aren't consigning him to death automatically.
How much of a life factor am I cutting though? Regardless,
Depends on how well the deflector operator does. In this case,
And that's me, isn't it? It'll be fine. It wouldn't be the first time I get radiation burns. Can assure you, Captain, your worry is very touching, but completely unnecessary.
Scoundrel as you may be, I still value you as a crewmate, and as a captain, I do take all life on my ship as a priority. If you feel comfortable enough for it, then you're confident of your skill enough to shield yourself in such a manner and still succeed, then I won't stop you. But I'm fully willing to take your place.
Appreciate it, Captain, but believe me, I value my continued existence quite highly.
I am very sure. She smiles. Anyone I can help? She says to abroad.
At what stage are we? Are we still looking into like an open torpedo hull, or?
I would say that you're probably messing with some torpedo guts and inputting the components where they need to go. So I would say at this stage, this would be a good way through, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
We probably need some of that coffee. So this is probably a few hours away from being ready.
All right.
I'd say it's going to be an all-night operation, but it's all night, all the time.
I'll have Alonso come down here then with some coffee.
Thank you, sir.
And
I'll leave, and then I'll go up to Dr. Lambeth and have the doctor, if he can, give anti-radiation meds to the entire fucking crew.
The entire crew? Are we all planning on?
There's going to be quite a bit of. It's going to be quite messy, regardless, one way or another. I want to play things safe for everybody.
All right. Well, I can Yeah, I can get some stuff. I don't know if we've got quite enough for the entire crew, depending on the quantities we might need at short notice. But
Then any essential
can
crew that are
sort something out.
left in the aft section. Then Dr. Lambeth.
All right, I'll check in with our supplies and talk about getting it administered to as many of the crew as possible.
Okay. So, as to the rest of you, this is going to be for the weapons crew, as compartments and components and coffee are wheeled in by the cartload. I'm going to ask for a control and engineering roll here to get the device put together in appropriate fashion here. This is going to be a difficulty 4 task.
Okay, can I apply any focuses, either electroplasma or weapons engineering, or
Weapons engineering would definitely apply.
okay, so that's reason, engineering. You said
Control and engineering.
Engineering,
Yep.
2 dice. Unless you guys want me to spend 1 more, I have a focus.
We have
3 floating momentum.
3 floating momentum. Use it.
Yeah, go spend it.
I will
Get the
go so
exercise.
far as to allow both of you to assist if you so wish.
Woohoo.
Make,
Can I assist with control security?
I will allow for that.
Thank you.
Saral, you may also assist there, of course, too.
Sure.
Well,
or not.
You were largely the two of you are largely keeping pace with Alonso's coffee at this point, but much of the work does come down to what Romanov does to precisely integrate the components of the device as the hours proceed.
We helped. We were there.
Yes.
I'm keeping my rolls for the shuttle thingy.
Yep.
Alonso does give you guys like each a plate of mini tacos that have nothing too terribly heavy, but still give you quite the nutrition value to keep you up. And for the Vulcan, you get a vegetarian version.
What's a taco?
She does lean vegetarian sometimes, but tacos were the right call there. So she gives them a hug. Thank you, taco.
Well,
taco.
As the midnight hour rolls over and you enter Tuesday, the tacos and other equipment arrive.
Taco Tuesday? It's still a thing.
It's a joke on multiple levels here. Anyway, but yes, in the late hours of the evening, wired as you are, you have a chemosite antimatter laced nuclear device. Fusion device that. Oh boy, is this non-standard. But yeah.
Would you like to wipe out all civilization off the moon? This device can do that.
Yes. Anyway. The device does come together, and by the next morning, evacuations are ready to proceed. Before we fully transition to that, does anybody want to have any particular scene with any characters ahead of time, or would you want to do anything else once you are free of the weapons project here?
Yeah, there's one thing that Alaska wants to do. Have teams reinforce power conduits, especially those to the deflector bay and the deflector shield and the shuttle bay.
Well, the people will they'll at least reinforce the conduits around that, as well as the hull plating. Obviously, the Aegis's deflectors are not really coming into play here because they are not oriented properly, and it is the shuttle that will be
the shuttle bay that's assisting, because he's got his ship in the shuttle bay.
Yeah.
So whatever I can do to make life easier for him when he does this, I want to do it.
Yep. Fair enough. So yeah, some better rested teams will come in order to help make sure that everything goes properly there. Is anyone else interested in doing anything ahead of time?
I want to go to Crichton and see if he made any progress with communicating with his aliens. Because I'm still a Starfleet officer, and I'd rather not create such a violence, but I want to make sure if there's any way to communicate before I have to reach such drastic measures for the safety of my crew.
Understood. Guess would anyone? We can cut this to, or we can go ahead to an earlier part of the, um, an early part of the morning as the morning shift is about to start. Would anybody else want to be present in engineering at that point? Okay, seeing none, I'll just set it up with Mr. Crichton, Captain. There are other engineers presently about. Chief Justice, I believe, will also be trying to coordinate with one of the consuls, trying to establish some sort of makeshift position.
Yeah. She'll smile. She'll smile at Justice.
Yep.
I've heard that you've piloted with worse, so certainly this will be a cakewalk for you, Justice.
Still wearing his sunglasses, he just gives you a nod there. No witty retorts today.
Yeah, she'll just give a firm nod.
Yep.
Crichton, how's progress? Anything?
The 5 o'clock, as in the AM shadow, has started coming over his face, and puffy circles are coming under his eyes. I'm sorry, Colonel. I can't figure out anything one way or the other. If there's some way to communicate with these folks, it's the entities I don't know. They're beyond my understanding.
Crichton,
Yes, sir.
you experienced and done a lot for the crew today. Get an hour or two of sleep. I'll take over.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. I would have had the coffee, but well, the last time I had some of Alonso's cooking, it didn't go so well. And he just starts strolling off toward, trudging onto his quarters.
She'll just like pat him and like lead him to the nearest airlock before the nearest.
Just take him out back.
Like, it's okay, Crichton. You've served your purpose. Goodbye.
You served your purpose.
I'm looking forward to
the nearest door, and then take over his station. And I still have a 3 in science. I don't have any focuses, but I do know my fair bit of science. So can I try just casually see if I make any progress?
Yeah, sure thing. Reason, science, difficulty 5.
Oh fuck! All right, how much of the extra do we use? Only 1, right?
I think that. Let's see. Yeah, only 1 floating point was used. So before it all goes away, I will allow 1 of those floating points to get used here.
Well, I was going to use the remaining 2 plus 1 of the momentum, of actual momentum, so I can get 2 extra dice overall.
Okay,
and
so
then,
that'll take you down to 5.
That's fine with everybody. And science, I have quite literally nothing for this. So no, and let's go. Oh,
well,
that was pretty close.
Guess what? The ship also assists.
Oh, but I can re-roll, right? No, it's not science. It's not command. All right. Yep.
Well,
all right. I came very close. That was still pretty cool.
For a reason that would not be evident to any outside observer, but certainly for Sharp, you know, your particular hobbies or past experiences have maybe given you a little bit more of an edge than others might have realized, and you're coming to realize it, understanding a bit more of what Saral might have been saying earlier. Like any reports or explanations that were given to you along that line does lead you to understand just how different this is, and further, just how stark the gulf is in terms of what this place could be. What you are starting to realize, or how one might begin to postulate it, is not so much that you are stuck inside one of these entities or something of the sort. Indeed, this is a sort of space, but it occurs to you with the amount of success you have and with the work that Saral has, just how alien these things are. This seems much more likely to be something broader in terms of a realm of subspace, something that wouldn't necessarily be explained by the math of the day to account for a multidimensional universe, but would nonetheless be a... It begins to fall into place that it's something that could possibly exist within that allowance, and that these things, that they exist within it, and within that sort of subspace realm, the laws are... they're beyond what you can begin to fathom. These entities, whether they are a true manifestation of life, are so utterly alien to what you could begin to know that communication with the tools and sensor capabilities of the day, there doesn't seem to be any way to do it. This is very much beyond what you'd be capable of doing in the here and now. It may be something that could never be done, or not without considerable advancement. It is certainly well beyond your knowledge to understand, Sharp.
Especially as a military captain. She sips her probably second or third coffee that's probably already reaching its end, and just leans back. I will make sure that any new communication protocols that I have created, it looks like Crichton may have written it. I basically write it in similar to the language that Crichton has already typically created in his habits. And just lean back, frown, rub my eyes a little bit. Everything about this is wrong. She says, okay.
Sharp, as you were glancing over some of this work and seeing where some of the telemetry is gathered, I will give you that you notice something on these sensors ahead. It seems as though some of the neutrino particles that were propulsed out ahead are also slowing down, or not even moving forward necessarily. There are indeed signs that several have ceased movement at a location ahead, but this is, as you start to look over the telemetry, you see an added need for urgency. And we will cut away from that for a moment, and cut back over to the shuttle pod where, let's see, Mr. Saral, the device is now in the process of being carted out, and an EV suit is being brought in for your express purpose. I believe, had Romanov volunteered to join as well?
Yes. Because I figured I might be able to back him up on an engineering side so that he can adjust things.
I would even expect to wear my own suit, to be honest.
Fair enough.
I'm sure I have one on board.
Certainly.
And I'm wearing a suit, and I'm going to get shot up by the doctor as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and prepare everything necessary to make that field. I don't know if there's maybe a benefit to connecting the ship to the shuttle to the ship power grid to have more broader energy network, or whatever.
Well, at this point,
reasonable preparations.
At this point, the shuttle is generating significantly more power than the ship.
Yeah, and we need what little power we have left to polarize hull plating and all that jazz.
Yep.
Seeing that telemetry, I will communicate to the shuttle bay. Communication to the shuttle bay.
Shuttle bay here.
We're running out of time, folks. Are you ready?
Sorrel?
As ready as we'll ever be.
All right. Shira, I would like you up here.
Yep, I'll
Once he's
come
ready.
right up, Captain.
Alright.
Shipwide, we're about to conduct our escape. Everyone, man your stations, action stations, and any non-essential personnel, brace for impact.
Okay. So the remaining crew in the shuttle bay evacuates. The nuclear device, we will say, is presently in the grasp of a grappler cable and has been pulled up to the basically the ceiling area where it would initially be emitted. The two of you have both Saral and Romanov have entered the shuttlecraft, which is all sealed up now. The outside of the shuttle, vacuum begins to take hold as the shuttle base air supply is pulled into local atmospheric tanks, and the shuttle bay doors behind you begin to open. Behind you, there is it is the same complete dark void, the complete and total absence of any matter or energy as you understand it.
That's gotta be fucking frightening.
Oh yeah. That with a like the first item to sort of go into play is the grapplers, which begin to extend out, taking the enhanced nuclear device with it, sending it out towards the aft section. Within moments here, Saral, you are cleared from the command center to adjust your shuttle's positioning, basically firing up the thrusters for a moment, turning yourself around, and then landing and securing yourself to the ship so that your deflector can be properly angled outward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the easy part.
Yep. I will allow a roll if you wish, but I won't compel you to do anything.
I think we have enough momentum to not risk any complications, to be perfectly honest.
Fair enough. So, with that, you begin to you conduct your turn, and the shuttle is angled out. The grappler, within a few minutes of your maneuver, is fully retracted. It is now at a site. It has dropped this device at sort of the minimum safe distance for what you calculated, and at the small speed you're moving on, you are going to be very shortly entering the optimal range. So, in the engine room, Sharp, you are standing around with the other with engineers and a handful of command personnel. I guess just to clarify.
I'm making sure everything is locked down,
Yeah.
safe, that we have maximum overclocking our polarized hold plating as much power as we have left, that we can funnel through it, and looking at Chief Justice, because he's the one to be guiding this, uncontrolled rocket, as it were.
Well, the reports from your helm officer and other stations are that they are as ready as they will ever be. Shira at a very makeshift, basically couple of computers. This is hardly. This is not the tactical bay, or rather, this is not your tactical station, and this is not the armory. So it is a very jury-rigged and difficult setup to work with.
Well, since we aren't going to be using phase cannons, I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, you do. You have the detonator set and ready to go for the for once the shuttle's activated its own deflector field. And
Red button.
Yep. All right. All stations report ready, Captain. Shall I give the signal to Mr. Siral? Or I can open the channel to the shuttlecraft.
Siral, Romanov, she'll nod to the shuttlecraft, get signal to shuttlecraft, and say, Siral, Romanov, you both ready?
I'm
Yes,
ready.
sir.
We'll make this, you guys. I'll see you on the other side. And she'll just say, on the dot, Shira. And she'll brace. Everybody fucking brace. She's bracing.
Okay. So I need 2 rolls to take place here. The first, Shira, since you are technically, this is the activation of a nuclear mine. So in order to affect that, that is going to be, let's see here. I think that mines are treated just about the same as, yeah, they are treated roughly the same as a, wait, releasing a mine. Sorry. Just going over my Utopia Planitia book rules, which, by the way, check out the Star Trek Adventures Utopia Planitia Starfleet source book. It is filled with a great many things, not just additional starships, but supplemental rules, ways to design your own. It is quite good. That is my shilling for the episode. Okay. So that would be... Oh, that is most unusual. It actually is meant to be a control and con roll, actually, assisted by the ship's computers and security. I guess we'll go back and treat this as a, I'll just ask in this particular case for a difficulty 2 control and security roll still, since we are loosely working with a torpedo.
Okay. In that case, I will do bold security, get an extra dice. Explosives, shipboard tactical systems, do they work as focus?
This definitely qualifies as an explosive.
Yep, good. Okay.
And while that's happening...
Ooh, wow.
Well, bold allows you to re-roll.
Does it roll 2 or 1 dice?
You may re-roll the entire pool, or as much of that
also,
as you
you
wish.
can use your determination if you haven't used it.
It's available. Like that
here.
determination, for instance, to
So
Erase-
you have rolled.
Erase.
Go ahead.
Might be nice to use that determination to erase that in 0 and re-roll that one.
Well,
Oh God, I'm
You-
struggling.
so you've scored 2 successes. That your re-roll, however, did score a 20, which means that there's a
Ooh.
complication. You may buy it off either by use of. Well, I suppose there is the re-roll for determination if you have a relevant value here. Since you didn't expend it for the auto crit, you can buy it off with 2 momentum, but not regain the reroll, or you may either give the GM threat or accept a narrative complication.
Well, let's do the re-roll on this and use my determination.
Okay, what
I
value
think
are you tapping?
value in this case, I would go for family is all, and some of these crew members are beginning to become like a family.
I'll accept that.
Okay, goodbye determination. Reroll that one. Please be better. Oh, it is a lot better.
4 successes. Okay. So as Shira moves to push that button at the same time, the deflector field must take shape. Saral, I suspect you'd be taking the lead as you know your ship best, so let's call this. I will allow for either engineering or science plus your control.
It's the same roll.
Okay, then take your pick there. Romanov, you may assist with that as well. I am spending 3 points of threat to increase your complication range.
3 points.
Yes, up to 3. And this will be a difficulty 3 roll.
Dump all the momentum in there.
So first of all, focus computers.
That would
It's the
apply.
best I think I can do. Excellent. I'll burn my determination.
What value are you tapping here?
I think for this whole thing where fear walks anger as its companion is probably the closest.
I could see the argument for that. Yes.
And I buy another die.
Yep. That will use one of the floating momentum.
What's the difficulty again?
The difficulty here, I believe, is 3.
Should I buy 2 die?
Just buy 2 dice. That'll be 3. 3
Yep.
momentum.
That'll bring you
Can
down to
I-
5.
Okay.
Go ahead, Romanov.
Yeah. Can I spend a determination on an assist?
Unfortunately, not.
That's what I thought.
Bum, bum, bum,
I
bum.
do have first,
You can
so I'd
also
like-
get a 4th die then and just get.
You know what? I'm using science and I'm buying the first die with threat. Because then I can reroll if something goes shit.
Good idea.
Aha! Gaming the system.
Indeed.
Let's do this. It was 4 die, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I will reroll
Good
it.
reroll. Good thing you got
particular.
that reroll.
Psst, I haven't rerolled yet. Don't. Oh,
Okay.
thank God.
So that would be 5 successes in total after that reroll, and that actually it would be more than that because we are adding the point of determination.
It's 7 successes.
Yes. So that
It's still not my best roll, I want to point out.
No, but it is enough to refill your pool of momentum and allow you to take, I believe, 3 floating now. So with a properly timed shunt to the deflectors, there is a horrible, sudden shock that not even the inertial dampeners are able to take. Everyone who is braced into position is ready for this as there's a terrible rocking from the coming from the aft. It sends people stumbling all about. This is definitely the moment where everyone moves to one side with the camera. as it
Flashes
begins.
of fireworks here
Yep.
and there. Yeah.
Yep.
A couple of rocks drop out of some.
Yeah.
Some of
The visual.
consoles.
If you had left the visual on, Saral, what would undoubtedly be a blinding light, I imagine that you either had the forethought to cut it out before it launched, or that your shuttle would have automatically tried to polarize or just shut things off beforehand.
Yeah, even if I have like a blast shield or something for the front window, that would have been down as well.
Yep. There's definitely that same sort of shaking. There are probably internal alarms that go off inside the shuttle, noting an increase in radiation levels. It is a long moment of trembling, and there are some difficult moments where it seemed like the containment field, the deflector might. You might develop some sort of phase variance in the deflector field that would risk, if not losing everything, at the very least taking out the shuttlecraft. But through it all, you you and Romanov managed to keep your cool. You sustain deflector field, and you note that from the internal sensors, the Aegis is now moving at considerably faster speed, close to very nearly what would be full impulse power. Possibly even slightly in excess of that with the proximity to the blast. You'd actually start to be concerned about the possibility of relativistic effects with time at this point. Or would be if that were the worst of your problems. To that point, it hasn't been that. But yes, from engineering, the ship is there's a round of cheers as Chief Justice reports that the ship is now moving at the top predicted speeds.
She just lets out the held breath she had and smiles. Good work, everybody. Chief, if you don't mind, I want your hands still on the wheel for the moment until we're through.
Sure thing. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to slow this thing down, though, with just maneuvering thrusters.
We'll work on that once we're through. She smiles and shrugs.
Zach, I hate to do this, but I have to do something. I have to jump off now.
Understood.
Nothing bad, but just want to let you know. Sorry. I hope you make it out.
Right, all right.
Bye. See Saral just eject from the shuttle.
Yep. Communication with the shuttlecraft has been shorted out.
No, I'm still there.
Okay.
I can make it.
Yep.
He's made his big goal. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I will briefly NPC Saral then, who just starts setting about other work then with everything done. It's going to be a few moments before the two of you can leave. I guess before I do the little bit with Saral here, is there anything the rest of you would like to do or say for the moment?
I want to do a head count and see if everybody's okay, casualties, damage to the ship, and see how worse or off we've gotten because of this attempt.
Crichton begins taking in damage reports. The internals read out, sir, that aft portions of decks 8 through 15 are showing elevated radiation counts. Hull plating appears to be holding, although there may have been some very slight effects there. Nothing too serious. I think most of it is from the leakage that may have come through the shuttle bay, but that's mostly sealed. It would have mostly protected everyone, but I think that just it's more an issue of just an issue of we had an exposed shuttle bay and we had a very augmented detonation here.
She nods. Good. Any casualty reports?
Uh, but otherwise, I think we did it, sir. We might just make it today.
She smiles.
He just had to say that.
He did have to say that. Anyone else want to do or say anything at this point?
I don't think there's anything I can say that's going to do much more than that. So,
Dr. Lambeth is also breathing a sigh of relief. It's like, oh man, I thought we were in trouble there.
oh, phew, just a day away from retirement.
I definitely want to go meet my wife and kids back home after this.
So, as everybody is pondering what they're going to do with retirement or is planning for that big get together back home, everybody has that moment of hope. Back on the shuttle pod, Saral looks over the sensors. He's been so engrossed in the project at this point, he hadn't been paying much attention before. Oh. This is a little bit of a problem, I think. It would seem, Commander, we'd better open a channel to the Colonel. Saral to engine room or bridge command center. How are we doing this?
Command, what is it, Saral? Are you alright?
Yes, we are not irradiated, or not any more than will pose a danger. The suits and everything worked. The deflectors held up. We're all good here. We just won't be leaving the shuttlecraft for a little while. That's, however, a relatively minimal concern now. It's more... I had a sensor program running in the background that had been meant to track the neutrino particles out ahead. I'm going over this data, but it seems very much that the particles, there are signs of particles that are moving very rapidly on what appears to be our entry point and potential exit. If I'm also reading these patterns correctly, either we are dealing with a large number of similar sized objects or possibly larger objects, or possibly both. I don't exactly know at this point.
She grits her teeth and immediately darts her head, or swivels her head to Crichton. Crichton launch that probe now.
Standing by on launch sequence. Well, this is...
Shira, how much power do we have left in the backup batteries? Can we fire up the phasers if need be?
I wouldn't guarantee how many shots we can, but we'll probably get a couple off.
I want you to have a wide spread with that, with those phase cannons. What is the time to arrival, Chief?
We're still, I'd say we're about 15 minutes out right now. Yeah, that's about what I would say at this point.
Saral, how much time?
Well, we'll be there in about that time, maybe a little shorter, although it's really most unusual. I'm detecting signs of what I would say is... It seems as though there's something slightly larger coming our way, dropping a point of threat for one additional die there, and then one die for the... There's a sudden rock from a...
The meta speak has progressed into its second stage, and he's now doing GM speak.
There is a sudden rock as there is a impact upon the hull, which that hits for, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points of damage, which also resists for 2 points. That's meant to be piercing 1, so that will, let's see, that will be 5 points of damage, which to your hull plating, which is enough to score 1 breach. So let me run a quick roll there. Rolling that single d20. Oh dear, and with 1, that I believe that should actually impact the comms system here. Just verifying that real quick. Oh, let's see here. Yes, with a 1, you hear Sorrel saying, "I believe something very fast is." The impact comes, and then all comms go out for a moment. Uh,
We've been
direct
hit.
direct hit, I think. Stand by. Restoring communications. And you are now in combat.
Great.
Oh, good. So we're in combat, moving at a consistent speed, a consistent trajectory, and no possibility of maneuver.
Yep.
Sitting duck time.
We are literally a lawn dart, have already been launched and no way to maneuver. Yeah.
Yep. Shira, from what you're reading out, the conjectures that the contacts are currently at long range. However, with each sort of round, you will begin to close the distance to closer and closer range. At this point, however, your weapons would be done at, or any weapons task would be attempted at increased difficulty because of that far out range.
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
Let's. Do I have a target?
You have a sense of where some of the neutrino particles are kind of moving about.
Okay. In that case, yeah, I'll send a phase cannon blast in the direction from which the whatever hit us came from.
Okay, so that will be a control and security roll assisted by the ship's weapons and security with a difficulty of 4. The ship may assist with a well, yeah, I already said the ship may assist with security and weapons. That will cost 1 point of power as well.
Okay. Right. Okay, so I've got shipboard tactical systems. That will give me a focus. I will use bold security by myself extra dice with the thingy bob. Fret.
Mhm.
Did we have any float in momentum after all that?
I believe there was, yes.
Okay, I'll spend whatever that takes to get me a 4th die.
So that would go. I think that I've been generous and I have allowed for just 1 additional momentum.
Okay, so fire phase cannons. Ooh. Let's re-roll.
Yep, there are 2 successes, but there are 2 zeros on the board, and one of those is a 20, which means complication. Since you have taken bold security and given me a threat back, you do have the option to re-roll the remaining zeros in your pool.
Yes, please.
Okay, that gives you 3 successes. Would somebody roll for the ship?
Sure. Aegis, and then do weapons and
Security.
Security.
Also subtract 1 point of power after the roll.
Where is power? Oh, there it is. 2 left. Great. So we're down to 1. And boop.
Time.
We
are not a combat vessel.
Yep.
No, but I should have been able to hit 4 by rolling 4 dice. Not. Oh well.
Shira, your
Especially-
fate. Go ahead.
No, okay, good.
The phase cannon shot moves out roughly along that course. you think you maybe made some contact with it, but it seems to also, by the same token, it's very hard to say because it seems as though the mass of whatever you are targeting is just shifting and constantly moving. The traces of neutrino particles have made this it is difficult to properly determine if you've hit anything at this range. There is no measurable signs of change that would give you a suggestion that you succeeded in your hit. You move up one additional zone, and they attempt a as you close to a further distance. The next turn they make actually results in security alerts coming up from Mr. Crichton. Sir, the forward hull, there's crew reporting signs of intruders on board. I'm getting reports of at least 6 or 7 of those entities have been detected.
She will point to a Mako and just gesture him to get the fuck out and go alert. Get freaking fighting boarding actions.
Okay, so basically, this turn you're giving the order for Makos to, rather in response, you're ordering the Mako teams to try and contain the intruders.
Yep. I like to make other orders too, but for the moment, yes, that is the main one I'm doing right now.
We'll call that more an advantage that you are creating as Mr. Crichton begins to execute the begins to execute your main order there. Sorry, sir. Attempting launch. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
He can use momentum. I am assisting with this if need be.
Okay, he will do that. It gives him cautious engineering. And he'll go ahead and take 3 points if you're okay with that for 4 momentum.
Yep.
All right.
Oh, come on.
With cautious, he can re-roll 3 of those.
Does he have a determination? Crichton?
Let's see.
Come on.
Service over any conflicting loyalty. He's not really loyal to these. New value in the case of this. Our voices must be heard. That is the value he will have for this.
Awesome.
So tap that for the reroll. Oh my god.
Okay, so we bring 2 momentum to get rid of that thing. The ugly thing right there.
Yep. So for those just listening and not able to see this, we started off with a single success out of 4 d20s rolled. Using the cautious option, since he bought dice with momentum, we re-rolled to get another 3 zeros. Then upon the second one, he did earn another success, but he earned a complication, and that was by spending his determination in order to affect the reroll. So, using another 2 momentum, you've bought that off, but you are now down to only 1 momentum.
That was assisting, right?
Come on, double assist. Double fucking assist. Let's go.
Oh, yeah, let's see. I guess you've given the order, so you can use your command and presence to assist here.
Sweet. Where's my fucking... Sorry from swearing, but this is intense.
That's quite all right.
There's my sheet. Presence and command, you said?
Yep.
Strategy, inspiration, fucking gambling.
I definitely say this has been a bit of a gamble here.
Get out the dollar wheel.
But you're more coming up snake eyes here. Let's call it inspiration here. Okay,
2.
yeah.
Whew.
Okay, with those successes, he's like, okay, sorry, I had to bypass the system. Yes, Colonel, probe launch is imminent here. Let's see if we can. I guess
she just stomps over and just slams her fist on the controls just to make it go.
Yep. The timer is counting down as it goes off. You close distance to another range, and then over the voice, over the comm line, Sorrel reports, Captain, I think we have another contact. This coming around us to port, and it is something that is reading as in close range, and when I say close, I mean close.
Close, yeah.
Oh,
And I will drop another threat to spend additional points there. There is a horrible shaking or rending sound as from your section of engineering. Crichton looks over and sees, sirs, hull breach is reported. Deck 8 and 9. It's the connection corridor, and that part of the feed cuts off, and the timers and clocks they go dead for you as far as those connections, as the forward and as the star drive and spherical primary hulls are just sliced in two by the scythe of some sort of darkness, some sort of imperceptible entity that rakes through the hull plating.
That'll be fine. We can fix that. We can
Yeah.
just a weld,
Just,
a
The-
nice
just,
good
we can
weld
just buff it
around
out.
it.
We can just buff it out. It'll
Yeah.
be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
The remaining telemetry shows signs of the running firefights between Makos on the other decks, although some near the aft sections are undoubtedly swept out into the vacuum of this other void. But soon the telemetry from that section is lost too, as the records pod begins its launch, and in a burst of warp 1 penetrates the barrier to the back to normal space.
Hey,
And
what a
so,
little pod.
Colonel, let us cut ahead to where we are now, some 18 hours after the initial stop. Is anyone with you now? The good question would be, where are you at this point?
I think we would be in the conference room. I would I would bring in Shira, myself, and Patel.
Okay, allow me to switch around just a few things here. So, yourself, your chief tactical officer, and your chief science officer, and EXO are watching over the remaining telemetry from what appears to have been the last desperate moments aboard certainly a version of the Starship Aegis. Patel himself looks quite taken aback by just the startling array of visuals there. Like he's broken out in a sweat.
That is deeply disturbing.
Sharp has her hands folded in front of her mouth, steepled in front of her mouth, and just watching with cold eyes.
So maybe avoid going to warp in that direction.
Since our cutoff, since our media res, start of our media res, Zach, I did make an order for Saral or Patel and Saral to look for any other golfer holes, as it were. Has there been any?
There are no signs of anything else quite like this. This appears to have been a unique sort of fluke in space, as it were, or sort of what as near as they can postulate is sort of a thin spot, for lack of a better phrase. There was a unique confluence of factors, which in this part of the Abyssal made this a difficult a difficult place to traverse. There's still the broad suggestion that using impulse over the next few hours to avoid this section, or perhaps even just going at warp 1 would avoid any such risk until you can more
feel
firmly charted.
confident.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We should probably drop a warning buoy down.
we've already did.
Okay. Good.
But she just says, after a long moment, she lifts her chin up above her fingers. I want to make clear right now, Patel, Shira, this data does not go beyond the three of us and command. I'm going to send this classified towards Starfleet Command, and they can deal with it what they want. But this would not do anything but hurt morale on the ship.
Yeah. Considering what it's just done to my morale, yeah, I can see why we'd want to not talk about that.
Patel stops for a moment. Is like, Colonel, isn't there anything we can do for them?
From what I can see, I don't think there's very much left of them to recover. What is the date versus now? Exactly.
So there is, compared to time that has passed out there, I would say that there's maybe a rough differential of, so from the moment that the telemetry came forward from them, time was definitely behaving in an unusual way. They experienced about a full day and a half before the probe left, and that only hit you a matter of seconds after the original ship had conducted its transit. So, if time is working in that same proper flow, or rather, if there's any sort of consistency to how the rules of time work between the two areas, it's probably been on the order of weeks and months since that would have happened. Long past the time where any functional battery reserves would have survived, if they even had the opportunity to exhaust them.
There would be no point, Patel, as admiral as that may be.
Aye, sir.
They did their job. We did that. They did their job, so we can avoid that fate.
And it just one more sign that space is as dangerous as it is wondrous. So
yeah,
and we'll see a lot of that. Can I assess Patel, like how he's handling this?
I don't think it would take much to say that he's a little shaken up seeing not just his own counterpart's death, but the sheer scale of loss and devastation that all happen to people that are you, but somehow not. He's still trying to begin to even comprehend the science behind that or the material there. He probably at least once spoke of the idea of bringing in Mr. Sorrel to look at some of the theoretical work that might have been involved. I imagine you had already shot him down over that, given the classified nature of what's going on.
Yeah. Patel, how close are we to the nearest subspace buoy? Are we still in communication?
We're still probably several light years off of the nearest effective range for it. If we backtrack slightly, then a signal from us could reach that in probably 36 hours.
Not enough. We don't have time for that. But when we can, once we're done with whatever's going on with the distress call, I want the both of you to talk with Starfleet Command and make sure you put in some mental health services.
Yes, sir.
Patel
Shira's
just
thinking of entirely different mental health service as soon as she's off duty.
Yeah. For the moment, yeah. Which speaking of, she'll say, for the moment, Shira and Patel, you are dismissed until tomorrow's roster.
Thank you, sir.
I will tag and send off the data.
acknowledged. And with that, Patel is just he'll kind of abruptly stand up, taking that as, perhaps misinterpreting and taking that as dismissal. He'll start kind of.
She'll allow it. She's not going to be bothered by it.
Yep, so Patel will start to leave. Shira, would you be following the Exo's lead here?
She'll look a bit hesitant.
She'll just nod. She'll just give us a little nod her head. Get some rest. Lieutenant.
Yeah. Can't believe I missed that shot.
I'm pretty sure you made the shot. Lieutenant.
Yeah. Not the way I'd want to be the executive officer, sir.
I hate to break it to you, but there's a lot of frightening things out there, and some of that comes with the command knowledge that you're going to have to bear it. And bear it for your crew, bear it for others. This is a startling and not quite the way I would like to introduce it to you, but I suppose we don't get that luxury sometimes.
Yes, sir.
She gives a small, soft smile. Get some rest.
Yeah. Yes, sir. When I leave the thing, the captain's
room.
office, conference room thing. Yeah, that's it. The thing. Jesus. I'll contact Romanoff.
Just a basic request for how about another sparring session?
Well, like
I need drink, I imagine.
I need a drink. I need a drink. Could you just meet me in my quarters?
Yeah,
Just-
yeah. I for a drink as well.
Good. Good.
GM, how much of all this do I remember?
You don't remember anything. All that stuff didn't happen to you because you recall some 18 hours earlier picking up a records pod from what appeared to be your own ship, and I'm pretty sure that the colonel put it on lockdown as soon as you had process to.
100%.
Yep.
And left it only to security and the immediate command.
Yeah. So
make sure she traumatized her executive officer and her armory officer.
Yep.
I mean, it's the shit you need to see. Like, it's the sort of things that you would be required to see. So,
Yeah.
like, special security officer.
Yep.
So, it's just she had to deal with.
Yeah. So the two of you go off for a drink. Colonel, we just leave this last shot with you here, sitting alone in the conference room. Any particular thoughts? Or
she will take a long moment, get up, kind of make motion almost to the communication button, hesitate, walk over to the console where we saw the data, rewind the data, and erase a little tiny bit of it.
I presume specifically around a moment in engineering.
Yep.
Okay. So, with that slight amendment made, you can set off along your day, and the Aegis, out in the reaches of deep space, but with familiar stars and perhaps an unfamiliar nebula around it, slowly limps off from the reaches of the Paramus Abyssal, on a slightly different course than it was planning, but on to another adventure, with the words of their counterparts locked safely away, but not forgotten. And it is with that we are concluding today's session. So I hope
Hey.
I hope all of you enjoyed our little found footage adventure with Star Trek Adventures Aegis. The crew did survive in a sense. That's reassuring, isn't it?
A past version of ourselves got to avoid the fate of the future version of ourselves. Yay.
Yes. So
Yep.
yeah, with that, that concludes our spooky adventure. So I hope that all of you enjoyed, and for those that want to see the bit of horror that we have in store for Star Trek Adventures Broken Sword, that will be coming up. You can catch that live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday. Or you can catch it in the archive at our YouTube channel, so be sure to give it a look. For everybody watching in the archive, I hope you all enjoyed watching, and we will leave you off here, so you have a good rest of your spooky season. But, see ya.